What's up, fam? It's Coach Cam. In today's video, we're going to be discussing why functional fitness is dead. You heard me correctly. Functional fitness is dead. So let me go into the details, dive into what was functional fitness, what were the claims made, and then what should you be doing today if functional fitness is actually dead. So to start off, functional fitness was a trend from like 2010 to about 2022, somewhere in that range, where it came about that, hey, maybe you need to train like an athlete to look like an athlete. Maybe you need to be moving your body in various forms so that you can get some benefits that you're not going to get from lifting weights, right? Those were the claims. The claims were made that, hey, you need to practice body weight exercise in order to be strong and be able to move your body. If you just lift weights, they said, you're going to just be stiff and have all this muscle that you can't really use, and it's just empty muscle, and it's just a big guy who's not strong at anything and has no purpose in life. He just has a lot of muscle tissue on his body, right? And I bought into this, and a lot of other people bought into this, especially if you were a smaller guy with less muscle mass, right? You would think, yeah, those big jacked guys, they're not strong. They just have all this tissue on their body, and that tissue doesn't help them do anything, and it might even be unhealthy, right? That was kind of the framework we're dealing with from that time period. And it's so funny how that's really just dead wrong, to be blunt. So when it comes to functional fitness, you don't have to do all of those weird movements that you see online in order to have the benefits of exercise, in order to have muscle size, strength, cardiovascular fitness, and to be able to do those moves, right? I don't need to practice crawling or doing bear crawls to know that I'm strong enough to do bear crawls, right? I don't need to practice advanced body weight exercises and techniques and skills to know that I'm capable of doing them, that I'm capable of doing what's necessary, not just for daily life, but beyond that, right? You're stronger than that. And so it's just interesting to see that the turn that functional fitness took was that, like, you don't need muscle mass. Basically, you just need to do very specific body weight type exercises, and you'll be as fit as you'll ever be. You'll be ripped, all that type of stuff. Well, turns out being ripped is just a matter of your diet. Your diet is part of your lifestyle as well. So if you can eat in a calorie deficit for a long enough time, you can look ripped. You don't have to do functional fitness. And as far as, Jeff Cavalier was always saying train like an athlete to look like an athlete, sounded cool, sounded correct, but also not true, right? So what does an athlete look like? There's various types of athletes out there that look completely different from one another, right? You have tennis players that kind of look like average people. You have NFL football linemen that look like giants, and usually are actually quite overweight. Athletes don't all have like blaring six packs and ripped muscles. A lot of times, if they're leaner, they can look like they have more muscle, but really they're just lean. And then other athletes are borderline obese, right? Some of the best shot putters in the world and discus throwers, they can be quite overweight. So looking like an athlete is already a phrase that doesn't have a specific meaning. And so there's not one way to train to look like that. Now, what you would want to do is to train the muscles of your body, contracting those muscles to failure, which will get you muscle size, strength, and cardiovascular fitness, right? Because there's no special component to exercises that give you a cardiovascular output, right? So running, swimming, biking, burpees, a million push-ups, like, why do these exercises give you cardiovascular benefits? Because you contracted your muscles, right? If you boil it all the way down to a fine point, that's the answer. Because you contracted skeletal muscles. And preferably you contracted them intensely, right? It wasn't just so easy that you could actually do it all day long, because that's where you're not getting a lot of physiological adaptations, right? Such as walking, right? You can walk all day long. It's a little bit on the side that's too easy to actually elicit adaptations. And I'm afraid that some of the functional fitness stuff goes down that route as well, right? So, I know a trainer that buys into kind of the functional fitness mindset and mentality, and a lot of their workouts just are geared toward people who want to do mobility work and yoga and flexibility. And while those are all great, it honestly just doesn't even compete with training your muscles vigorously, training your muscles intensely, right? So, and honestly, to also break away from the functional fitness movement, you have what I'll call is just specificity, right? So if you have a competition where you're going to bear crawl 100 yards, and who's going to bear crawl the fastest, one, you want to be a strong and fit person, but two, you might want to practice bear crawling, right? So practice the skill or the exact movement that you're going to be tested on. That's going to get you the best possible results in a competition-like setting, right? So don't expect general muscle training to actually make you an insane athlete at a sport, right? Think of your most favorite athlete. Think of your favorite NFL player, right? They train the sport, right? Mike Evans trains to be a wide receiver. He doesn't just walk in the gym and lift. He goes out there on the field with cleats and practices catching a ball over top of his defenders, right? And out maneuvering them, running routes and stuff like that. So there's things like that you cannot replicate in a gym. And to try to is to fail miserably because of what's called motor learning. So your body and your nervous system learns movement patterns specifically, right? So if you're talking about something extremely specific, like being able to cut around a football player on a football field, that takes practice. That takes, people call it, right, athleticism. And they think that that's a general term that you can just apply to everybody that's an athlete. Well, it's not true. It's only going to be whatever you deem as athletic. And in that moment, if cutting around an opponent is athletic, it's important to train that. You're not going to attain skills like that without training them. So whatever your sport or competition is, make sure that you're training the sport to get better at the sport. Now, you still need to contract your muscles hard. You still need to lift weights, right? I personally grew up running cross country and track, and I didn't lift weights first. I just jumped straight on the team at 14 years old and was a skinny stick figure running cross country, running distance running. And I made some good improvements in my 5K time at the time, and it was awesome. But if I would have been lifting throughout that journey, it would have helped me so much more to be more injury resistant and to be a stronger runner, right? When you face resistance on a race, such as running up hills, stuff like that, you need to be strong to be able to perform up a hill, perform against that challenge. So in my mind, best thing you can do, lift weights with intensity and then practice your sport specifically. If you don't have a sport, that's fine. Don't worry about it. You don't need to practice specific skills that are not in your sport, right? Take Olympic lifting, for example. You don't need to do that. The injury risk is high, despite what some people will say. It is very high. You're moving weight in a very specific manner. Olympic lifters will tell you that Olympic lifting has a high injury rate. So I'm not making this up. But it's not worth you performing that if you're just here for general exercise adaptations, muscle size, muscle strength, cardiovascular enhancements. So you get those from contracting your muscles to fatigue, right? To failure, as hard as you possibly can. That's your goal. And if you do train like this, if you train how I'm saying, you train your muscles very, very hard in a progressive fashion, right? Over time, you need to be lifting heavier weights, right? You need to be making progressive overload. I promise you right now, you will be more functional than you ever thought you would be. And you will actually surpass the benefits that you would have gained from doing some strict functional fitness type of program. You will surpass that because we have more technology today. We have more machines and variety that we can target muscles specifically. And now that those muscles are stronger, they will help you in daily life. They will help you in functional activities. So if you do have to crawl on the ground or climb something, you are fit enough to do so because you are strong. Because you are strong, that is going to help you in every area. So I highly encourage you to lift weights, to contract your muscles vigorously in a safe way so that you can gain these benefits. And then if you do want to go play a sport or a skill, be my guest. Go do it, right? And train that too and be the best at it. But don't neglect your body. Don't neglect the muscles on your body, because if you do, you're going to get injured, right? I've known somebody who picked up playing pickup soccer in his 30s and then a few weeks in just tore a hamstring, just tore it, kicking a soccer ball. You don't want to be that guy. So train the muscles of your body now and train them for the rest of your life. And that way, anything that comes your way, you're more prepared, you're fitter for it. And if you need to train specific skills, you can always do that, right? You can always add those in and practice, right? Like for me, I'm a firefighter. I have to practice firefighting. I'm not going to say that my fitness is going to make me an excellent firefighter, because it's not. You have to practice the skills. So hopefully you guys like the video. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.